So what happened was I just happened to reach out to a friend from high school just to check on her one day, see how things were going. She was like, "Oh, I'm great. I'm actually going to Dubai for Thanksgiving to go and visit my cousin." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that sounds so cool. Like if I had known earlier, I would have went with you." And she was like, "But the tickets are still, X amount of dollars." So I invited myself on her trip to Dubai. The crazy part was when I did that, my our Spanish teacher from high school actually lived in Dubai at the time. And so, reached out to her on Facebook, let her know that we were coming. We went to dinner with her a couple times, and I was already an educator at the time in Washington, D.C. And she was just like, I was in the process. I just turned, or I was turning 30 years old the next year. And I was like, I'm in the process of deciding if I should buy a home, or I just needed I knew a big shift was coming for me. And she's like, you should come over here. She was like, she explained all the benefits for me. She was like, they pay for my housing. I'm able to save this amount of money. I'm able to travel a lot, whatever. You should definitely consider that. And at the time, I never knew it was an option. I was like, I was a PE teacher. So I was like, you assume all the international opportunities you heard about with people teaching English. And I was like, I don't want to teach English. I barely speak English properly myself.
This episode, we are talking to Abby about living abroad. Sit back, grab a snack, and listen up.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to At the Table with D. Monique. Here we have real conversations with real people who are sharing their real life stories. Today, our guest is Abby McPherson, who is in Abu Dhabi. Say hey, Abby.
What's going on? What's going on?
And thank you so much because it is late on her side of the world. So thank you so much for coming on here to talk with us. And also, I would like to thank the listening audience for listening. I thank you for the likes. I thank you for the comments as well as the shares. So, Abby, as I told you when we did our little talk before the podcast, we have snack time on here. It's one of my favorite parts of the podcast.
If you don't have a snack, grab one and come back.
Before we eat, my great-grandmother, Lucille, would always encourage us to pray before eating. And so I'm just going to say a quick prayer before we have our snacks, okay? So Heavenly Father, we thank you for this food that we're about to receive. We ask that you allow it to give some nourishment to our body. We thank you for this and all other blessings in your son Jesus' name. Amen. So, Abby, you are our guest, and guests always go first. So please share with us, what are you snacking on today?
I have an orange today.
Is that like one of those little cuties?
It might as well be. It's like a nectarine. I just came back from an iftar, which is pretty much a dinner that happens because it's the month of Ramadan here or everywhere, and pretty much it's the dinner that they have to break their fast because they fast pretty much all day long and then they break their fast in the evening. So I was at one of the universities for an iftar, so I have a small snack today.
Nice. So how long does Ramadan
Ramadan lasts about 30 days.
Okay. Is there any special events that happen at the end?
Yes. So at the end of...
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
At the end of Ramadan, after that 31 day period, they have what's called Eid. I don't know exactly what Eid means, and I'll have to do more research on that. But pretty much it's a celebration to conclude the fasting month. So they do a lot of celebrations. They give gifts and things like that. But it's a really great time for them to come together as family to be able to celebrate and acknowledge and, finish off that time of fasting.
Okay. What would you have for dinner?
Today, so initially when they break their fast, they usually eat like a date. I have a date here somewhere. I have to find it. Let me ask my roommate real quick. Hey, Courtney.
Okay.
Courtney, can you grab those dates off the table for me real quick?
Sorry, what?
Can you grab those dates off the table for me?
Sure.
Thank you. So I'll show you what a date looks like. But they have like a date and maybe some water or some tea to kind of, just increase the blood sugar. And then they'll go and pray. and then they'll come back after they pray, and then they'll eat food, just to give them more energy throughout the evening. Thank you. Um, so here you go. Here's another surprise snack. But a date is pretty much right. This is what a date is. So they eat a couple of these to boost their blood sugar. Then they'll go and pray, and then they come back and they eat lots of delicious food. So today I had like some rice. So I'm vegetarian as well. I had some rice and like some stew, bread, had a lentil soup, fruit, desserts. So they'll eat for the evening to nourish their bodies. And then they'll eat again, maybe at like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning before the sun starts to rise again, because they fast while like the sun is up, and they break their fast at sunset.
Nice. Um, I've heard a little bit, about Ramadan. So, I think it's cool that you're there and you're able to experience it for the
Mm-hmm.
entire time.
Iftar is to
So,
break the fast, and then there's sahur. Sahur is the food that they eat in the early morning hours before the day
mhm.
officially starts. So that's their two like eating times.
Okay. That sounds pretty interesting. So I'll share with you guys my snack, and it is a simple snack. There's this bread called Dave's Killer Bread, and they have a raisin bread that is really good. And so what I did is I toasted up a couple of slices, and I put on some peanut butter. So some of the stores here have a little machine where you can like make your own peanut butter, and it's so cool. And I like it because I don't have to get a huge jar of peanut butter. I can just get a little bit. And Abby, we do eat
Okay.
on this podcast, okay? So feel free to eat while you're here with us. I do want to ask you a quick question. Are you participating in Ramadan? Like, are you trying to go through the process?
No, not officially. I think maybe I'll try to do like a day or so, but like Ramadan is, and that I respect them so much because it is a really difficult task, to be honest, because
Mm-hmm.
they don't drink water or eat throughout the whole day. And so that is very,
Oh,
yeah,
really?
so throughout the whole day they don't drink water, don't eat food. And so what I do is try to be as respectful as possible, so I wouldn't like eat in public during the daytime. Or if I'm going to drink water, I make sure like
Right.
I go around the corner or I hide or something like that, in order not to, not necessarily tempt them per se, but just out of respect for the fact that I know that they're doing this.
Yeah.
So I have not successfully completed a day or extended a period of time during Ramadan, but like I will kind of like refrain from eating in public places during this holy month.
Um, I was active duty in the
Mm-hmm.
military, and I was stationed in Turkey. So I'm familiar with Ramadan, but I won't act as if I know everything about it. Um, and I asked you a question earlier because I was trying to think of
Mm-hmm.
how it ends, but I think the Turkish people have a festival called the Sugar
Oh,
Festival at the end of Ramadan there.
I,
I think that's what it was called. I have to look into it, but yeah, I do remember, but I didn't know they couldn't drink
yeah, no,
water.
no water, no food.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't know about the water. So, that's pretty interesting. And dates are pretty sweet, and you're about to eat the whole thing.
I do like dates. I've liked dates because of last year when I went on my trip for spring break. It was also Ramadan,
Mm-hmm.
and we had
Mm-hmm.
tons of dates, and we broke the fast with them a few nights. So dates grew on me when it was sometimes my only option. So I like it now. It's a great sweetener replacement. So like instead of me eating a brownie, I can eat a date. Or if I was like, oh, I want
Mm-hmm.
something sweet, I know that this is like fruit based and more natural than me going to grab it like a Snickers bar or something.
So some people say, excuse me, Abby, because I'm kind of in the I'm getting well. I wasn't feeling well, so I'm getting well. So that's I still have a little bit of a cough. But some people say that if you cut the
Hmm.
date open and put a little bit of peanut butter
I've
inside,
heard that.
it tastes like a Snicker.
I haven't
You
tried it
haven't tried it
officially
yet?
yet, but I did. I was presented with that interesting fact maybe 2 weeks ago, and I have yet to try it, but I'm open to it for sure because I love peanut butter as well.
Yeah, I have some dates in my pantry, so I may have to give it a try because I haven't. I know about it, but I haven't tried it either. Yeah. So we are continuing. The reason Abby's here is because we are continuing our series on living abroad, right? Because a lot of people are curious. They sometimes folks want to leave the states, maybe permanently, maybe they want to do it, 6 months out of the year. Um, or they just say, you know what, let me just try it and see how long I'm able to last. And so that's why Abby is here. Abby and I are in a group for creators. And so I was just going along and I was, reading about people in the group. And I thought it was so cool that excuse me, let me drink something. I was reading her profile and I thought it was really cool that she lived in Abu Dhabi. And so I invited Abby to be here as a guest. And a few things that I have learned about her is she is also a podcaster. She's an educator and also a freelancer. So, Abby, is there anything you want to tell us a little bit ahead of time? I am going to ask some questions to get to know you, but if it's anything you want to volunteer ahead of time,
Oh,
you're welcome.
I'm an open book. Honestly, I'm happy to have this conversation. It's been a conversation I've been having a lot more, of course, since I've lived abroad. So
Hmm.
happy to facilitate the conversation and pique some more people's interest because that's one thing that you don't know until you know, right? And so, yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So we already know how you're doing. You just got back from your trip. You just had a nice dinner. So I imagine your day went
My
well.
day went well. I was a little late.
Um,
I was a little lazy today, but I needed a little bit of a break. But other than that, the day went well.
Sometimes it's okay to be lazy. It's okay. So tell me, Abby, where did you grow
I
up?
grew up in Marietta, Georgia.
Right down
There
the
you
street
go.
from
Where
me.
you at?
So I am in Augusta, Georgia. Well, I'm outside of Augusta, Georgia, but I'm
There
from
you go.
Savannah,
Yeah,
Georgia.
for sure. I was born in New Jersey, but pretty much raised in the state of Georgia.
Okay. Um, how did your family grow up? Why did your family move from New Jersey
All
to
right, so
Georgia?
we got to go a little bit further back for that. So I'm my mother
Okay.
is British. So she actually moved to the United States when she got married to my father. And they were in New Jersey. But then when they got divorced, my mom moved down to Georgia. So I'm a British
Okay.
citizen and American citizen.
That is so nice. That's so cool to have dual
Correct.
citizenship. Yeah, is your mom still
Yep,
here in
she is.
Georgia? Mm. Okay, so hey, if you come to Georgia to visit your mom, you have to let
I'm
me
coming
know.
to visit my mom in Georgia this summer.
Okay, let me know so I can put the dates on my calendar and that way we can like have
Awesome.
lunch or something. Yeah. Lunch is
All right.
on me, okay? Lunch is on me. You flew all the way from Abu Dhabi.
You know
Lunch
what?
is
It
on
takes.
me, okay?
I appreciate you saying that because not a lot of people can understand that. So you come back, and you said you
Mhm.
were active military, so you lived overseas for a while. You come back home, and then they're just
Mhm.
like, "Oh, when are you coming to see me?" And I'm like, "Do you know how far I flew? I'm not coming to see anybody. I came to the United States, so you either
Right.
come to me or we can holler on FaceTime like usual." But yes, I can appreciate you extending that invitation because a lot of people assume that when you're abroad you're making a ton of money, and some people are. Don't get me wrong, but the extra effort is not
Uh-huh.
made after you've flown halfway across the world.
Listen, I I understand, Abby, because I experienced that. I would fly all the way from wherever I was in the world, and then I'm at a location. I'm there in the city, and somebody's like, "Well, come see me." I'm like, "You come see me. Come
Like,
see
I'm not
me."
going anywhere.
Do you know what I went through to get here?
And then you're dealing with jet lag, and they
Come
want you
see
to get
me.
out. Nah.
Yeah, come see me. Yeah. So, I know you already told me a little bit, but I know the listeners want to know, how did you end up in Abu
Okay,
Dhabi?
this is how it happened. And one thing that I would
Mm-hmm.
say is that exposure is important. So even to the listeners who are listening to this are
Mm-hmm.
being exposed to this information, which is key for you being able to make decisions that can, in fact, change your life. So what happened was I just happened to reach out to a friend from high school just to check on her one day, see how things were going. She was like, "Oh, I'm great. I'm actually going to Dubai for Thanksgiving to go and visit my cousin." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that sounds so cool. Like if I had known earlier, I would have went with you." And she was like, "Well, the tickets are still, X amount of dollars." So I invited myself on her trip to Dubai. The crazy part was when I did that, my our Spanish teacher from high school actually lived in Dubai at the time. And so, reached out to her on Facebook, let her know that we were coming. We went to dinner with her a couple times, and I was already an educator at the time in Washington D.C. And she was just like, I was in the process. I just turned, or I was turning 30 years old the next year. And I was like, I'm in the process of deciding if I should buy a home, or I just needed I knew a big shift was coming for me. And she was like, "You should come over here." She was like, she explained all the benefits for me. She was like, "They pay for my housing. I'm able to save this amount of money. I'm able to travel a lot, whatever. You should definitely consider that." And at the time, I never knew it was an option. I was a PE teacher. So I was like, you assume all the international opportunities you heard about with people teaching English. And I was like, I don't want to teach English. I barely speak English properly myself. And she was like, "No, like I'm teaching Spanish here." So when I was exposed to the opportunity or the idea that I could teach my subject abroad, I was like, that's interesting. So when I came back from that particular trip, I looked into the opportunities, went to a job fair, and less than a year later, I was in Dubai.
So you went to the job fair,
hmm
and you said you were hired a year later. Why did it take a year?
So I would say it not from the job fair. So when I went home, the application process for me was what was because I didn't want. So I was in the middle of a school year, right? So I get this information. I'm like, "Oh, I'm super interested. That's great." So I had to go home. I wanted to fill out the information. You had to apply, but I didn't want to leave my school in the middle of the year. Not that it presented itself like that, but it pretty much took a year for me to go home to really think about the information, apply, get everything together, and then the following year, that January, is when I went to the job fair and was offered the position that I took. That would happen
Okay.
that next August. So everything kind of just like once I was exposed to it, did the research, applied, and then went to the job fair, and then was offered a position.
So what were some of the requirements for you to be eligible for the
So
position?
oddly enough, so I used the service called Search Associates, which is a paid service to find international opportunities, and I had a profile on there. So when I went to the job fair, um, pretty much did I knew I was looking for a physical education position, but had nothing like nailed down. So job fairs, you literally go in and you just like, "Here's my resume, like how you doing?" Just in a sense, selling yourself. So it's a testimony all in itself on how I got the opportunity because it was my first official job fair. Super nervous. I knew I wanted to come to Dubai, but I was open to a couple other countries at the time. So I was and speaks in talks with someone from Sudan. I had an interview with a country from I think it was Senegal, I think, or something like that. And then also I had like a talks with China and Hong Kong. But anyway,
Mm.
when it came down to it, I went to the Dubai table or the specific school that I worked at, and I only saw because they would just have like chart paper above with the positions that they had open, And if you were interested, you go, you introduce yourself, you give your resume. So I saw this one said physical education or just swim teacher. And I was like, I don't teach swimming. I was like, I can keep myself alive in shallow water, but I don't instruct swimming. So I was like, okay. I went up to the table and I was just like, what do I need to do to prove that I can teach swimming? And I was like, what, at the time, my knowledge was only what it was. I was like, do I go to the Red Cross? Do I go to the Boys and Girls Club, get a certification? Like, what do I need to do to say that I can be a swim teacher? And they were like, I don't really know. And I said, okay, thank you. And I walked away. All right. And the guy was like, wait. Like, what can I have your resume anyway? And in my head, I'm just like, sure, you can have my resume. But in my head, I'm like, I don't teach swimming, so whatever. And then I walk away. And he emails me later on that evening like, hey, I'd love to have an interview tomorrow. Are you open to it? And I was like, sure. In my head still, I don't teach swimming, but okay. Have the interview with him, tells me more about the school, tell him more about myself and the things that I've been doing because I was a physical education teacher in Washington, D.C., yada, yada, yada. At the end of the conversation, he was just like, okay, this is great. So we can offer you a 1-bedroom. We can bring you in at this rate. Yada, yada, yada. Slides me a piece of paper. And I'm like, what is this? He says it's pretty much an offer. So letter of intent. Like, I'm like, what? I was like, for what? He was like, for PE. So it turns out that after I had that mini conversation with him about my interest, he looks at my resume, calls the school and says, hey, doesn't one of the PE teachers want to go back to the classroom? And they were like, yeah. So they was like, all right, move her. I'm hiring this person. So one of the PE teachers went back to the classroom so that I could get the position in the gym, essentially. So that was just like one of the ways that I know that like God really showed me how he can move beyond time or expectations and things like that. So I was just like, because I was like, they literally came there in my mind to hire a swim teacher, and they hired another PE teacher and took somebody who wanted to do something different, put them back where they wanted to be, and made room for me. So yeah.
Wow, that is such an awesome story. Real life story.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So I'm not asking you to give us a number. Okay. But when he made you the job offer, was the pay much greater than what you were receiving at your, the position that you were in?
Here's what I'll say. The package. So when you move abroad and you have certain situations, the package was better than the pay that I was getting in DC. So mind you, DC teachers get paid pretty well because we have a higher pay scale. And I was at a school that was technically at the time year round. So I was getting paid pretty well. But when you compare it to the package that I was getting on the other side, this is a school that said, all right, you get 2 weeks for spring break, 3 weeks for Christmas. You get your summers off. We're going to give you a round trip ticket home every year. We are going to give you tax-free money, and we're going to pay for your living accommodations, and we're going to pay for your health insurance. So mind you, like when you look at your check these days in the U.S., right, you see union fees, you see insurance, you see taxes. When I got my check there, I saw Abby McPherson and money. Nobody was dipping into my money. It was like, oh, this is all, like, there was no FICA. There was nobody was in there. It was just
right
and money. And I was like, this is awesome. On top of the fact that I did not have to pay for where I was living. I only had to pay for internet and water and electricity, which was nothing. My expenses were maybe $200 a month. I lived directly across the street from my school, so I didn't need transportation. Right? Mm-hmm. So in comparison to what I was spending, what I was making and spending at home, I surpassed that. I was able to get myself out of consumer debt at the time, improved my credit score tremendously, and was living in a very safe country. So I would say all in all, yes, I was making more money living abroad than I was in the States.
Nice. Because when you said that, first thing that came to mind was student loans.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers are not making, some teachers aren't making that great of an income, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, they have student loans and then real life. So did you have student loans? Were you able
I
to?
still have them. I had a great amount of student loans because I got multiple degrees. But what I was
Mm-hmm.
able to do is I consolidated my loans before I left, for to live abroad. And but what
Mm-hmm.
I was able to do with this, with the money that I was making, is I was able to at least pay all of the interest and some of the principal. So it was the first time in my loan life that I was seeing the numbers go down instead of just going
Yeah.
up, because the interest. I mean, I got six figures in student loans, right? So, once you're able to handle the interest, which was a payment all in itself, and then at least tick away at the principal, that made a slight difference. We still got a long way to go,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay. So, the students that you're teaching, where are these children from?
So at the time when I was teaching, you teach, kids from everywhere. You got embassy kids, or you got people whose parents are here and being engineers, or they're teachers themselves. So it was a really, diverse community where I was teaching. I had kids from all over the world that spoke multiple different languages, held multiple different passports. And so, you had a few of the local kids, maybe Emirati, had a lot of Arab kids from literally all over. At the time when I was working there, we had 108 countries represented.
Wow. Wow. That's very diverse.
For sure.
Yeah. So, did you pick up on the any other languages?
No,
Not, you don't have to be
I'm
fluent.
about to say, I got my keywords. I know more Spanish than I know Arabic. I know my keywords. Everything else is absolutely not like. Uh, we're fortunate that English literally is the language of the world. Everybody tries
Mm-hmm.
to learn English. I at
Yeah.
times I wish we were not so spoiled with our language, and that we
Yeah.
were forced to learn other people's languages. But that's one thing that you also don't understand unless you live outside the country. So I have my hellos, you know what I'm saying? The salam alaikum, alaikum salam. You have the masalama, which is like welcome or something like that. La, which is no. Shukran, which is thank you. Yalla, hurry up. So you have those little key phrases you hear every now and then, but I could not group together a sentence in Arabic to save my life.
Oh, that's okay. So, I would assume you had to do some type of background check.
Yeah,
You have to pass a background check.
it's,
Um,
it's the same.
what kind of things are they look just as you would when you're doing any other job?
So a couple things that I had to do when it came to, my degrees and stuff like that. You have to get them attested. So pretty much, U.S. government has to be like, yeah, she actually went to the school, and we agreed
Okay.
that she went to this real school in this real place. I had to get an FBI check and get that attested, saying I didn't get in any trouble in the U.S., or I'm not wanted for any crimes in the U.S. This is a real
Mm-hmm.
statement, real document. Yeah, pretty much. As long as you're not a troublemaker, you're good to go. It's similar
Mm-hmm.
to any other background check. I don't even know what they check for. I'm not gonna lie to you, but when I came here, we also had to do like a medical exam. So in order to get you like your government ID, it's called an Emirates ID. So they want to make sure that you're not carrying any like diseases and things like that, and that you're in decent health, so you don't come over here and keel over. So once all of that is together, then they continue to process you. You get your Emirates ID, which make sure that you're allowed to come back and forth into the country after you've received that. So my Emirates ID is as important as my passport to me. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. The Emirates ID is on me all. My Emirates ID might be more important than my passport. I'm not gonna lie. Here, my Emirates ID is on me at all times, like a driver's license. Um, but my passport stays at home safely.
Okay. Um, and I understand that. I know there are being having lived out of the country, there's some documents that you need to have with you all the
All the
time.
time. Sure.
So yeah, yeah, definitely understand that. So did the school or did that agency help you to find a place to live before you got there, or is that something that you had to look into on your own?
Thankfully, that was one of the stipulations that I had in mind prior to even looking for an overseas job. I didn't want or need the stress of having to find my own place. It was also the first time that I lived 100% alone. So the school had
Mm-hmm.
school housing, and they pretty much placed me in a place that they had already like had connections with, and they paid the rent. So like I said, this school was directly across the street from where I lived, which was
Mm-hmm.
great for me. I knew exactly how long it was going to take. It took me less than 5 minutes to walk across the street. But yeah, so after 2 years, you could get the living allowance to go and live somewhere else should you decide to. I just didn't feel like doing that, so I just stayed. Excuse me, where they put me.
Okay. Excuse me. um. So you no longer work as a teacher.
I do not.
So yes. So now after that, you had to go and get your own place to live.
So okay,
So how was that search?
this is what transpired. Another blessing. I had been wanting to create on a full time basis, and my best friend, who I also stayed with, was very supportive of that dream, if you will. So when I was, just expressing some of the plans that I had, and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna just save up this amount of money. I think I'll find a place that I can just pay for. And she just looks at me and she was like, why would you do that? And I was like, because I need a place to stay. She was like, you could just stay with me. And so, yeah, she's also an educator who has, very similar, if not better benefits than I had. And I stay in her spare bedroom because she's awesome.
Oh, how awesome is that? That's really awesome. Thank goodness for good friends. So how long have you guys been friends?
We've been friends pretty much for 5 years about now, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And well, I don't know. I know you're not paying. I don't know. I'm not going to ask what your arrangements are, but I will say this: if you had to put in U.S. dollars, how much would the average place around there be to rent?
So the other interesting thing about here is that it's not always your traditional month to month situation. They can say,
Okay.
hey, you can live here, but we want 2 checks. We want 4 checks. We want 6 checks. So you can be paying months worth of rent at a time. And pretty much, I feel like it's a great way to ensure that you have a place to live. So you might be
Mm-hmm.
paying 2 to 3 months at a time for rent, but back at home, you know how people are struggling month to month to find rent. But how would you feel if you already had to pay 2 months or 3 months? So now you can just make the difference until your next payment. But I would say it's still kind of like average. You can probably find varying prices for places to live. I don't have the conversion on me right now, but I believe the equivalent of what it would cost to live in the apartment similar to here is like 90,000 dirhams. And I can see if I can find that conversion for you because I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay.
But let me see.
And what is the currency called?
It's called dirhams. Dirhams. The
Dirhams. Okay.
abbreviation is AED. Um, 3.67. Yeah, so that'd be about like $24,000 a year, if you will. So that would
Okay.
give you about, like I said, it's pretty average, especially now. Just over $2,000 a month, if you, yeah.
And so when you're paying that amount, like you were saying, you didn't have all the other utility bills, right?
hmm
So does that $2,000, average a month cover those things as
The
well?
school pays it.
Okay, but like on your own,
Oh,
if you were on
yeah,
your own and you rented,
depends on who you rent from. So it depends on the owner. So if the
okay,
owner includes it, yeah. If the owner doesn't include it, then you got to pay for the utilities, which the utilities, in my opinion, here aren't ridiculous.
okay. So I want to know. What was your first impression of the culture when you got there?
Um, so I think I've lived abroad before because my mother's British, so
Hmm.
I wasn't immune or not familiar with the Muslim culture. One thing
Hmm.
I respect so much just the way that they carry themselves and the discipline that they have for what they believe. Um,
Hmm.
if I was surprised at anything, it would be how accommodating they are to Americans specifically. So you imagine you
Mm.
come over here, you're walking through the mall and you see restaurants like Cheesecake Factory. You see things like Texas Roadhouse and IHOP. And I'm just like, what is happening? Why am I seeing all of these places that I'm familiar with back? I don't want to eat this. What I realize is that,
Hmm.
the more you feel like you're at home, the less that you realize that you're not home. So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, if I was surprised by anything, it's how much American culture transcends the world.
I remember I was in Turkey and I think we had found a TGI
Yep, we
Fridays.
have that too. Yep, TGI Fridays.
And I was like, what? TGI Fridays? And I'll tell you another funny one. When I was in Korea,
Mm-hmm.
they had a Popeyes. Now, this was not on the military installation because all military installations have Popeyes, okay? If you don't have a Popeyes at your military installation, like what is going on? But yeah, on the local economy in the downtown, they had Popeyes. And I will tell you, Abby, that was the best Popeyes I ever had. Yeah, the Popeyes in the States cannot compare. Yeah.
Yeah, we got Popeyes, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, all of that.
Yeah. When I went to where was I? In Jamaica, they had a Burger King. I was like, Burger King? Well, all this good Jamaican food, you gonna throw a Burger King
We're disappointed.
in
Other people
here?
aren't. We're just like, ugh.
Right. Yeah, so that was yeah, that was surprising. So you are a vegetarian. So tell me, what are some of the typical meals you have when you go out?
So sometimes it's very interesting. And here's a
Hmm.
caveat. So yes, I'm 95% vegetarian, but if I feel like eating some salmon, that doesn't make me not a vegetarian. So,
Exactly.
when I go out, we're probably eating some Lebanese food, sometimes Indian food, places that are like I don't want to say more accommodating, but for the most part, wherever we go, if they don't have stuff that's for me, I might eat some salmon or I might just eat some fries or something like that. But it can be very interesting at times when I go out. I end up fussing sometimes quite a bit, but we make it work. But I can eat like Thai food and
Yes.
all the other stuff. Anybody with some vegetables, I can get it around with it. I just haggle a
Hmm.
little bit about the price on some stuff.
That's one of the cool things about living outside of the U.S. Um, is haggling. It's just a part of the culture. Some people might think, "Oh, why would you do that?" It's a part of the culture. It is expected, right? But you don't want to be offensive. You
Mm-mm.
don't want to really lowball a person, you
Correct.
know?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, but that sounds fun to haggle a little bit. Um, I know whenever I'm going out in a place, I've never been to, if I can find an Indian restaurant or a Thai, I like you said, I know I'm good.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And, of course we don't want to just eat rice and fries, but if it comes to that, it
And
comes to
funny enough, in
that.
Turkey, I ate cheese and fries, and I was mad because they
Yeah.
didn't have no ketchup. I was like, "What is?" I was like, "If I eat another piece of halloumi, it'll be too soon."
Oh gosh. Um, so I know you said that you've lived abroad, so But I want to know, was there anything that you had to get adjusted to in the culture?
No, because I'm already pretty modest in general, so it's not like I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. If anything, it was a little bit more freeing because I'm vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
I never ate pork or anything like that, so it's great to be able to go somewhere and know that there's not, a ham hock and the green beans, or what I'm saying. Like I was like, I
Yes.
I don't drink, I don't smoke, so it's not like I'm like, oh man, I can't get alcohol the way that I want to. It's just like, so it's just coming to a
Uh-huh.
place that was already kind of my speed, and so I was like, this is great. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I came and I was like, oh, I don't have to speak Arabic. This is amazing. It's like, and so
Yeah.
I'm Christian faith. I'm actually 7 Day Adventist. So initially, when I came over
Mm-hmm.
here, I was like, well, my days off are the Sabbath, so this is great. So we worked at the time Sunday through Thursday, so I didn't have to worry about working on
Mm-hmm.
Saturday because we didn't have school. Just over
Right.
maybe 2 years ago now, they switched to days of the week to Monday to Friday, which I'm still good. But yeah, all of my things that I may have had concerns with, like I can still go to church, I can still worship with the denomination that I identify with. But yeah, everything was kind of just like, no, that's not a problem. No, that's not a problem. No, that's not a problem. I was like, great.
Oh man, I have so many questions about. Okay, one is a comment.
Hmm.
How many times have you been somewhere, like you said, ham hocks and the green beans, right? How many times have you been somewhere and you say, I don't eat meat, and they say, well, just don't put the meat, just take the vegetable out of the meat.
And
How
and I'm
many
about to say,
times
and
have you
that's why
heard
I get
that?
an attitude with some restaurants. I'm just like, are you serious? Are you gonna take care of me this evening when I'm curled up because you wanted me just to snatch the pepperoni off the pizza? No, I'm not doing
Right?
that. I just won't eat.
Yes. So you mentioned something about
Hmm.
alcohol. Are there restrictions about
So what
alcohol?
I'll say is that it's not like you can roll up to a grocery store and buy wine and
Hmm.
alcohol at the grocery store. You have
Okay.
to go to a specific store that has, the license to be able to sell alcohol. Or when you come
Hmm.
into the country, you go ahead and grab your bottle of wine or whatever at the duty free. But if I were to go, in the States,
Okay.
you can roll up to the gas station and get liquor. You can go to Walmart and get liquor. You can go darn near anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And we have the
Right.
specific ABC stores or whatnot. But yeah, so
Hmm.
you're not gonna go get it at your regular grocery store or gas station. And then it used to be
Okay.
that you had to have a liquor license to be able to purchase it. But I believe that's not as strenuous now. But the emphasis
Hmm.
more is on you have to be non-Muslim to be able to go ahead and go inside and get what you need.
Okay. And you said you're able to worship with those with the same faith. So you are able to find a worship
Mhm.
service
Yep.
there. Tell me about
So
that. How did you
So
find
I'm
it?
7 Day Adventist, and so whatever
Hmm.
denomination you are, you pretty much can look it up. What happens is they allow us to have places of worship, but we pretty much worship in certain areas. So it might be like a compound. So they say you can rent this hall out to go and do your worship services, but we don't have structures. If you said so, you're not gonna come here and see a church on the side of the road like you would in the States. We're more in a
Okay.
location where they're tolerant of us being able to worship as we please, as long as of course, we're respectful and things of that nature. But facilities in and of itself, you won't just go and see churches being erected here. You will just continue to see mosque.
Hmm. That's real. That's pretty interesting. Oh, okay. Um, have you gotten homesick at any point since you've been there?
Not necessarily homesick. If anything, I probably miss certain familiar faces. But after you've been in a place for so long, the other faces that you become familiar with, it's on both sides. So when I'm in the States, I
Hmm.
miss Abu Dhabi. And when I'm in Abu Dhabi, sometimes I miss my family, right? But no, no, every time I'm in the States, I'm counting down the days until I come back. Like literally, if my family wasn't there and they wanted to see me a little bit more, I think I could deal with the coming to the States for 1 week and leaving.
Yeah. How when you do come, well, how often do you come to the
Hmm.
States, and how long do you normally stay?
When I was at the school, I would probably come twice a year. I would come for the summer and then for that Christmas break, because we
Mm-hmm.
travel for spring break. And now, what has been trending since I left traditional education and I have to pay for my own ticket, and they not giving me no money,
Uh-huh.
right? I'll just do an extended summer and then just chill. Last Christmas I was here. Yes, last Christmas I was here, and I'll probably do the same thing because I'm coming to the States for an extended amount of time again. And in my mind, not necessarily that it doesn't make sense. It's just not fiscally responsible, if you will, for me to come to the States for three
Uh-huh.
months and then 3 months later come back again
Mm.
for just to give the gifts that I'm not finna give nobody anyway. Especially when
Uh-huh.
I paid a significant amount of money to get over here. I am the gift.
Hello.
Merry
Say it
Christmas.
again.
Merry Christmas. Auntie Abby is here. Y'all ain't getting nothing else from
Yes.
me. Uh,
Listen, Abby, I totally understand what you're saying. You are the gift. You're like, do you know how much I paid to ship myself here to
you
you?
might you might get a gift if I don't come, but it's guaranteed that the airlines got your gift.
That's right. What you should do um, is take a picture of your boarding pass,
Wrap that thing up.
buy some cards, and put it in. Here I am,
That's not bad.
baby.
Yeah, them jokers receipts. Be like,
Yes.
hey, I need you to give me money so I can give you something.
Yes. Now, Abby, before we got on, I was commenting about how nice your braids
Thank you.
are. Who does your
So
hair?
recently, maybe about 3-4 months ago, I learned about the salon out here that has some ladies with some very gifted hands. Before that, I didn't trust nobody. Either my sister at home did it or I did it. Not braids like this, but I had functional styles because I didn't like people in my hair. But when I ran across these ladies and how affordable they were,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I'm never doing my hair again if I don't have to. I was like, I'll only do my hair when I wear it curly. I was like, but for that, what I've learned nowadays, especially, is that you pay for convenience. So Abby, either you sit down and take 6 hours to do your hair, or you go pay them and they take 2.5.
Yeah.
Pick your poison.
Yeah. So, tell us about the ladies who do your hair.
So it's a salon called Violet Rose out here in Abu Dhabi, and they have some ladies from Africa, right? So some of them are from Ethiopia, some of them are from Kenya, and they wash your hair really good. They blow dry it, braid it, and it's a very, affordable price. And so there's a lot of brown ladies that attend to
Yeah.
get their hair taken care of. And then
Mm-hmm.
so this is almost 2.5 weeks old, right? And what I liked
Mm-hmm.
about it was that certain people get played for like snatching your edges out. Like this did not hurt going in, and it still looks as almost as good as the day that it went in. But
Yeah.
I still got edges, and that was my biggest
Yes.
concern, especially getting my hair braided from other people, because I'm just like I don't want to walk out the salon looking like this, and I
Yeah.
didn't. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's good. And like you said, you sometimes you have to pay for that
Mm-hmm.
convenience. And so you saved yourself 4 hours
Mm-hmm.
from having to, yeah, because time is not something that we can get back. So
For sure.
yeah, pay for it. What are you drinking?
Box water.
I thought you were drinking box
Box water.
water. Is that very common to have water in a box versus in a
Not
plastic
necessarily
bottle?
in a box always, but like you're gonna always drink some type of bottled water here. You're not necessarily gonna find many people drinking out of the tap because a lot of the water here is desalinated because I don't think there's any fresh springs here in the desert. So they take the water and they treat it so that it's you can use it for your bodies, and it is potable. But I ain't drinking it. But we get all of our water
Mm-hmm.
delivered. We get like the 5 gallon like water jugs and have a water
Mm-hmm.
dispenser in our
Mm-hmm.
apartment. So this I just happened to like be in a location yesterday and he gave me the box water, but I use that. But then everywhere I go, practically I have this double insulated water bottle, and I bring my water with me because water is also not free at restaurants and stuff like that. So it's
Okay.
like you're gonna have to pay for a bottle of
Mm-hmm.
water. So and then it also gets extremely hot here. So having something that's double insulated will make sure your water stays cold or cool, um, because you're gonna need it.
Okay. That's good to know. So, listen, people, if you are traveling abroad and on your bill they charge you for water, it may be that it's a situation like where Abby's saying, "Hey, the water has to be brought in. They're not getting it from a
Mm-hmm.
tap." So, yeah. So, know where you're going. Excuse me, Abby. Um, a lot of times when people are now, a lot of times when people are looking to move
Mm-hmm.
abroad, they look for expat
Okay.
communities. Are you a part of an expat
So I
community?
think anywhere you go, you end up falling into some type of expat community just because of who you are. I won't say that I'm specifically a part of anything like exclusively, but you will see pockets, right? So definitely I'm more connected to Black Americans over here because one thing that,
Mm-hmm.
is also interesting is, we're a minority in the States, but you're a minority of a minority of a minority abroad. And so it can be very like odd to see a Black person, but if you try to talk to them, they have an African accent or a French accent or a British accent. And so what can happen is
Uh-huh.
you roll up to somebody, and then the on the rare occasion that hear or speak to somebody and they have an American accent, you're just like, "Hey, how are you? Where you from?"
Yeah.
Like, and I've met people before, and I'm just like, "Oh, please tell me you're not a visitor. Like, you live here now, right? Please." I did that to one of my good friends at church. We're sitting in
Uh-huh.
a class, and I hear her voice, and I'm just like, "Oh, she's American." And so I chased her down, and I was like, "Please tell me that you're not a visitor." And so I've forced her to be my friend ever since. So what happens is you definitely want to be around people that are similar to your culture. You can find different interest groups. So like I meet up frequently with a couple creative friends who are either photographers or videographers, and we do some creative projects together. So you pretty much you find your tribe. I'm a pretty introverted person, so like I roll in small groups. So like my best friend, we pretty much together almost 100% of the time. So we be chilling, and then I extend myself when necessary, to those other people and places to get things done.
I remember when I was in Italy, and I would always get mistaken for Native
Mm-hmm.
Africans, right? So I they would say, "Sister, sister, Ghana, Nigeria." I'm
Nope.
like, "America."
And you know what's funny? They're surprised when we say America. Like going to Zanzibar recently, and even my
Uh-huh.
friends, like they literally were shocked that we were actually American. They're like, "What?
Uh-huh.
Like you actually from America? Like, but you look like me." And we like, "Yeah."
And you look like me,
But yeah, so no.
right?
They come to you, they try and talk their language, you just like, I ain't got it. But it's also something to be mindful of. Like sometimes you do better by
Hmm.
just being quiet in certain situations because,
And blending
yep,
in.
because when they hear that American accent, all they see is dollar signs.
Yeah. I I was talking to a friend of a friend. So both of the ladies were from Nigeria. And the my friend's friend was like, "I promise you look like somebody in our village,"
Mm.
right? And I was supposed to go and visit my friends. They moved to Germany, and so I was supposed to go there to get a chance to visit them and possibly go to Nigeria. Well, the cocoa happened. That's what I call the pandemic, the cocoa. The cocoa happened, COVID, Corona happened. And so, of course, I just dropped the idea of going, but I do want to go to visit Nigeria. And also, I went to Paris last year, and in one of the restaurants that I was in, the server, he was making small talk with us. And so everybody, shared where they were from. And he mentioned that he was from Mauritius. I never heard of Mauritius. I looked up like a drone picture of Mauritius, and the water looks like the most beautiful jewel you ever
My
want to
friends
see.
went there
And
last year.
so, yeah, so that's on my list of places to go. I was telling a friend of mine who we traveled together, I was like, we need to go to this place. So I'll be going. I don't know if it's going to be this year or not, but Mauritius definitely is on my list, as well as Nigeria, because they might be my people. But I don't know about you, Abby. I'm afraid to do one of those 23andMe, or I'm a little skeptical. How you feel
I'm
about
on the fence
that?
about everything, pretty much. So I let my family members do that because I got some. I mean, maybe my cousins will do it. I got cousins. We're related on both sides of the family. Um, I'm not necessarily like super skeptical about it, but then sometimes I don't want to spend my money on things that I don't necessarily believe is true all the time. And so it's just like,
Yeah.
what's it? I don't know what it's gonna do. If it ain't gonna give me no money,
Well, my skepticism doesn't come in whether it's true or not. I just don't know who the heck I'm sending my DNA to.
there's that.
That's where my skepticism. I'm like, I don't know y'all like
So I was
that.
like, I'll have somebody else do that. I don't need nobody walking around looking exactly like me.
They might try to clone, make an Abby part
They not. The
two.
world's not ready. The world's not.
They're not
No, no,
ready.
no. They're not ready.
Yeah. Um. So tell me, what's a typical day for you, your life? Because I know that you're not working for the school system. You kind of created your own path. You create your own work. So tell us, what's a typical day for
Now I
you?
will say sometimes because there's a good my roommate's school is right down the street. Sometimes I will go and substitute because I realize that schools still need help, and I don't dislike education. I just dislike being in a place all day long, and so I'll go and substitute every now and then. It's not necessarily weekly. I accept it when I want to. Outside of that,
Oh, that's cool.
outside of that, like wake up, look, for what the deliverables are for the day. I have a couple clients. So if it's their content day, I'll prepare that stuff and get it all scheduled together. If I have any long form content things that I need to do, I'll kind of just, try to see what I'm in a space to be able to create. So right now what I'm trying to do is make sure that I create enough time for my clients, but then I also create enough time for myself. Sometimes it's easier to work for clients because they're the ones paying you than sitting in front of the camera to get stuff ready for yourself, to edit it, blah, 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 blah. So we go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Then I try to, take out some time to learn different things. So either if I'm, looking at a course or looking at a YouTube channel, um, then sometimes it's my day to make dinner. So yeah, I like having a roommate because it allows me to be human a little bit. I can be very focused sometimes, and without the distraction of another human, I, I would probably work even harder. But it's needed.
Yeah. Tell the listeners what it is that you do for your
Yeah.
clients.
So specifically, what I do is I focus on repurposing content. So for instance, let's take this podcast. So you have this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and if you were one of my clients, I'd take the long form podcast, be able to, listen to it, time code it, find various places of interest throughout it, be able to make various forms of content. So be it video, be it, carousel, be it quotes, be it, graphics or something like that. We want to take this piece of media and turn it into multiple pieces that can help you be more consistent online. So instead of you just saying, "Oh, I have one podcast episode," You're just like, yo, I got a month's worth of content that I can produce from this one effort. So I help them um, expand their efforts and be more present online
Mhm.
without having to overextend and burn themselves out thinking they have to create new media on a daily basis.
You know, I know we're in that group together. We're in a group called Deeper Than the
Mm-hmm.
Brand. Shout out to them. I'm still working on it, Abby.
Keep doing it.
I'm still, yeah. So, I know for me, sometimes I'm like, is this good enough? Like, like just showing like daily interactions, just being, just being me. I'm like, is this good enough?
It
So,
ain't about being good enough. It's about showing up. So over time, you
showing
keep
up.
learning things over time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the first time we wrote on a piece of paper, the first time you do anything, like you gotta allow yourself to suck at some stuff in order to get better, right? So whether you're
You're right.
critiquing
Mm-hmm.
yourself or you're allowing the information or the thoughts or critiques of other people to help influence your next actions, what is most critical
Mm-hmm.
is the actual action, because you won't know what you want to do better next time. You won't know what people liked or didn't like if you didn't take that first step. So if you don't do
Mm-hmm.
it, you'll never find out, you'll never get better, and never just keeps being never.
And you know what? I know all that you're saying to be true. And sometimes it's good to be
Mm-hmm.
reminded.
I mean, I remind myself too. Don't
Yeah,
get
it's
don't
good
get
to.
me wrong, because
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's because we are a capable people, and because we have this thing called social media where we can compare ourselves in real time and aspire to do different things, and especially if we make certain amounts of money. Like I have a ton of different cameras that I could manipulate and get what I want out of the first one. But I bought the next one because it's going to do this, and I bought the next one because it shoots 4K, and then I get this one because it's 4K, 60 frames per second, and it's just like you could do all that technically with one, but because we're a people who are never satisfied, we get caught up, and we all get caught up, but we got to keep pushing.
Yeah. So I know this podcast is for people who want to live abroad, and people might be saying, "Well, dang, Abby went in there with a silver spoon in her mouth. She already had everything set up. The school is covering her, and she has it good. But what about me?" So, if you can just think for a second, some of those people in the expat community, what do they do? I don't know if you had a chance to ask them, but what do they do to earn a
Mm-hmm.
living while they're there?
So, like I mentioned earlier, it's not just educators who get certain accommodations paid for. There are quite a few industries out here that will give you a place to live. Now, there are also a few industries that might give you a place to live. You might not like it. You might want to take your extra
Mm-hmm.
money and go find another place or go find a roommate or rent out a room or something like that. So, there are situations like that. But coming over here, you have to realize that one of the things that you are leaving behind, if you will, is taxes. So the money that you make is the money that you make. You don't have to make money and
Yeah.
still give 30, 40% away to Uncle Sam. So
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what it is, you pretty much equal things out. When I did the calculations, right, for mine, and I took what I was making in DC and I took away 30-40% of what it was, and I minus my rent and my insurance for my car, all this other stuff, I was making more money just being here. So if you
Mm-hmm.
come over here and you imagine like, okay, great, the money looks different, but the only thing I'm paying for is rent, rather than rent, taxes, insurance. You know what I'm saying? So there it's an option that you have to, pick and choose. Like, what you gonna do? So it might be situations where
Yeah.
you have to just, hustle for a little while and rent a room in a place. Or if you want to live alone, you're gonna have to pay more money. But you're gonna pay taxes.
Yeah. So some of your expat friends, they're there kind of like you under contract
Mhm.
like you did for teaching. What are some of the career fields that they're in?
I have a couple of friends who work for NYU Abu Dhabi, New York University Abu Dhabi. Got a couple that pretty much you know who you know. I'm an educator. I know a lot of educators. Um, I don't
Okay.
know too many people in other fields because we kind of all group together. Like I've probably met people who work in other fields, and things might be slightly
Mhm.
different for them. But that's excuse me. I heard somebody specifically say like I have to find friends that are not just teachers, and it's a task. But there's a lot of us
Yeah.
over here, especially when a lot of them are your Americans or black or whatever. But when you have a job and that's the only community that you're around, or even when you meet in your smaller subsets, but majority of them are educators anyway. Sometimes it's hard to find because people who are not in your field probably are not in your culture, right? So, for instance, right,
Mhm.
educators can be anybody. It can be white, black, Irish, Scottish, whatever. But sometimes certain fields over here are just fulfilled by certain cultures or certain demographics.
I get
So
it.
we have, customer service
Hmm.
industry is pretty much Filipinos. Customer service is Filipinos and Africans, right? We have tech industry or whatever, primarily Indians. You have certain like construction who with different cultures and things like that. So, um, yeah, depending on who you are, where you are, like there's military out here, but they're where they are.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Okay. So, tell us some things that you do for
I
fun.
take naps.
You go to
Um, take naps. I started taking myself when there's a decent movie out. I start taking myself to the expensive movie theater when the one that reclines all the way and they give
Mhm.
you a blanket and they bring their food to you. Um,
Well, a
yes, I mean you got to
blanket.
give it back, but either way. But it's like 12 people in the theater instead of like 100. So I was like, ooh, I like this.
What?
Um,
That's
oh no,
highfalutin, girl.
I was like, this is what it's gonna be. So if I ever move back to the states, it's
That's
gonna cost me a lot of
nice.
money because I'm growing accustomed to a certain way of life that I don't want to give up. Um,
Yeah, I've heard of theaters bringing you your food, but I have not heard of a theater that offers a blanket.
yes, I ain't going back if
Okay.
I don't
All
have to. I
right.
ain't going back. Uh, what else do I do for fun? I chill. I chill with my friends every now and then. We'll go
Hmm.
somewhere. We'll travel. Went to the country of Georgia last October. But yeah, I'm a pretty
Hmm.
simple person. I keep it simple. Don't cause a lot of trouble or nothing like that. So yeah.
Okay. Do you
Yes, I
drive
do.
there? Okay. Um, how are the cars?
The cars I drive are
Are they?
regular. The cars other people drive are expensive. So you'll see a lot of Mercedes Benzes and all types of stuff. So my friend came over to visit me a couple years ago, and the cab that I called to pick us up because I wasn't driving at that time was a Lexus, and she was like, "Are you telling me that the car that I just spent X amount of money on is a cab over here?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, it is."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's kind of like as common as a Ford or a little Honda.
a Lexus is like
Yeah.
yeah, a Honda rolling around here.
Yeah. Now here is a question. Do you
The
date
dating
over
scene is
there?
absolute trash. It is
So it's
absolutely
everywhere.
is. But also, I will
Yeah.
also say this: I'm also not putting forth any effort. Like I said, I am a very
To date.
introverted person, and then I
Mm-hmm.
feel that the places that people tell you to go to try to find a date are not a part of my
Mm-hmm.
routine. So people like typically,
Okay.
movies or people, I'll go to a happy hour. I don't drink. And I was like, this is unhappy hour
Mm-hmm.
for me. You know why? Because while you all are getting these happy hour prices on alcohol, I have to spend $10 on a ginger ale. that I don't get free refills on. I was like, this is
Right.
foolishness. I was like, and so why would I go to a place to meet somebody who participates in an activity that I don't really do and spend money to be here?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no.
Nah.
And then I don't trust
Yeah.
dating apps because I feel like you put in forth your best representative, and I don't feel like I have
Mm-hmm.
time for that right now.
So I know. Okay, so we know you're not dating. Do you have
Yeah,
friends who have dated? Maybe people who might have even
yeah. I
gotten
got a friend.
married.
They were a Tinder date and they're married now. Yeah. So
Okay.
I've seen it, and I don't know. I've seen people date successfully and unsuccessfully.
Okay. Just like
It's still, I'm
anywhere
about to say
else.
it's still
Okay.
trash, but
Yeah. So, what has living abroad taught you about
living
yourself?
abroad taught me about myself that I am capable. Living abroad has
Mm-hmm.
taught me that I am valuable. That there are certain people who want me around, who like the things that I do, who appreciate what I have to offer. Living abroad has shown me that I have the right to want and get the things that I want and interested in. I've had an amazing opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
invest in, my hobby that has turned into now a career because I had
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity to utilize the money that I was earning instead of giving away for rent and all this other stuff to be able to invest in it and really kind of just like bet on myself. I'm on a journey even now as we speak to be able to figure things out for myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy doing that. So while sometimes I feel like the hustle and bustle of the States can get people trapped, especially people like, in my age gap, right? So we are told, go to school, get a good job, get married, get a car, get a house, and they look up and they have all these expenses that they can't drop to go and pursue something. I mean, some of them are still doing it, but it's much harder when you
Mm-hmm.
have $60,000 a year to pay on something, and you got kids that got to go to
Mm-hmm.
school, and you got to support your spouse. It's a lot It's a lot more difficult when you took on the advice of society and went along with it and acquired all of this consumer debt to where you cannot finance, or
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have a hard time financing and at least exploring what you believe is your dream
Mm-hmm.
because you got a mortgage to pay. So living abroad allowed
Yeah.
me to be able to explore that at a faster rate before I had major responsibilities. Now, I still have to take care of myself. I still help my
Okay.
family out and things of that nature, but I am able to do this now without without having to worry about, milking my family savings and, my husband getting pissed at me
Yeah.
because I ain't got no job. So, yeah.
Yeah. I do want, because I like to talk
Mm-hmm.
about food, Abby. Uh what do you what do you make? You said you have to cook for you and
Yeah.
your roommates sometimes. So
I just want
what
to
do
let
you
everybody
make?
know that doesn't matter who you live with. The food argument is going to be an argument. Um, that
Okay.
question, what do you want to eat? It's irritating coming from a male or a female. Um,
Okay.
no, I cook. We have a little rotation because she's also very picky on what she eats, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
vegetarian, so she feels bad if I have to make meat all the time and I ain't got nothing to eat. Either way, I make curry chickpeas and rice a lot. She makes like chicken broccoli bake, but we'll substitute it for tofu for me. I can make cauliflower tacos, deep fried cauliflower, mind you. Um, what else?
Mm-hmm.
Look, I have salmon, mashed potatoes. Make black bean burgers. Um, so yeah, we experiment a fair amount with certain things, but my diet has changed a little bit because she's a little bit more restrictive and picky, and vice versa.
Okay. Um, do you ever see yourself moving from Abu Dhabi?
I like the UAE a lot. I feel
Mm-hmm.
100% safe here. If I were to leave this country, I'd have to go to a country that offers similar safety. It wouldn't necessarily be for the United States is not necessarily on my radar at all at the moment. Just
Mm-hmm.
because you can scroll on Instagram right now and just see that it's not necessarily the best place on earth.
The safest.
And so
Mm-hmm.
the type of security that I feel at the moment as a black single female is something that I would like to hold on to for as long as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there's so
Mm-hmm.
much more that I have to put on when I go back home. Like literally, I have to remember when I go back home. Okay, Abby, you got to start locking your doors. Okay, Abby, you can't be out late at night. Okay, Abby, make sure that nobody's following you. Make sure that nobody knows what's in your bag. You know what I'm saying? Like, make sure that you don't put your phone down. I literally have to take my mind through a journey of how I can protect myself and not be taken advantage of when I go home, and it's uncomfortable. And I hate
Yeah.
that I have to go through that. I can't stand that my family continues to have to live through that. But yeah, that's not something that I want to voluntarily put myself through for the sake of whatever the
Mm-hmm.
sake may be.
Yeah. What advice would you give someone who wants to
So,
live abroad? Doesn't have to be
my
long.
advice to somebody who is even thinking about living abroad is if you can, take an extended vacation, right? So, when you go somewhere and you think go for more than a week, that little week ain't gonna do nothing for
Mm-hmm.
you. I just had some friends here this
Mm-hmm.
recently who are considering moving out here. They didn't tell me about their travel plans before they came, because I would have told them to come for longer. But I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot get the gist of a place for 1 week. And unfortunately, I think one thing that we do as minorities, we don't take advantage of. So I said we do trips. So I have different classifications for things now, since I've traveled a little bit more. Black people do a lot of trips. Trips is that 3 to 5 days, maybe 7. We don't take vacations. Vacation is that two
Mm-hmm.
week situation, 2 week, 3 week, where we submerged in a situation. So I would say, don't take your trip just in case, and then take a vacation there. And then if you got a remote job, go there for like 2 3 months, see what's up, get involved in the culture. I know a couple other digital nomads that are in Hungary. They just went there to just go see what's up, and now they got not necessarily their citizenship, but they got like their papers to be an expat there because it's like we love it here. We like the people. We like this, and that's just an odd country. But go and take
Yeah.
a trip that's longer than a week. Really see what's going on, and then give it a
Mm-hmm.
try. If you don't like it, go back home. That's one. Okay, so I would say literally that's one thing
Yeah.
that Americans fail to realize, especially if you never lived out of the country. Our passport is coveted worldwide. Yeah, no matter where you go, when they find that you're American, oh, why are you here? We want to go to America. And you're like, no, you don't. But we neglect or very unaware of the what we have available to us outside of the United States, because we rarely go outside of the United States. I'll say that we have a
Okay.
lot of untapped opportunities outside of the United States, being a United States citizen.
Okay. You got my thoughts going. I want you to
Mm-hmm.
do me a favor. This is a new question I am asking all guests. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to dream big. I don't want you to think about how it will happen, but if you had to dream big, what do you see for yourself in the future?
For myself in the future, I'd love to continue to bridge the gap for other people to have the opportunity to uh, be free, in a sense, to be able to create and explore without the concerns of finances. So yeah, I would love to
Mm-hmm.
bridge the gap and be able to bring people here, allow them to travel to different places just so that they can find out who they are without all of the additional responsibilities that are given to us in our various places.
Okay. Well, Abby, I just want to tell you thank you so much for coming on here. I hope that something you have said will help someone if they've been on the fence about living abroad, because I'll tell you, I definitely miss living outside of the U.S. I'm grateful that I'm here, but I definitely miss that experience. And I totally agree with you about don't just take a trip somewhere, because a lot of times you're only going to get the touristy experience. Go there on vacation. I will say I have been taking trips, 5 to 7 days. But I do try to not do the touristy things all the time. I want to go among the people. I go to the grocery store everywhere I go. I won't lie, I do. But anyway, I hope that something you have said will help someone make a decision if they are on the fence, and just take a chance on themselves. And like you said, if you are already doing remote work and you can take that work with you for a couple months, go do it. See if you like a place. Yeah. Well, what if someone wants to be in contact with you, Abby? How can they get in contact with you?
Abby Teaching Afar, almost everywhere. On Twitter, it's Abby Teach Afar because I couldn't get the extra letters. But Abby Teaching Afar, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I'm putting my website back together. But Abby Teaching Afar, it originally started when I was going to teach abroad, and now I'm just excited to continue to teach people other things that I know, be it about travel, be it about tech, content creation, things of that nature.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you to the listeners for taking the time to tune into another episode. If you guys have a story and you want to share it, I have my contact information in the show notes. You can reach me on Instagram by searching At the Table with Monique, as well on Facebook. And if you have a snack suggestion, because y'all know I like my snacks, it has to be vegan friendly. Send it to me. I would love to try out your snacks. Well, this has been At the Table with Monique. And until next time, be blessed.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
And peace. Thank you.
Join us next week for a new episode.